Hello and welcome to my video for my round 10 game. You might be quite surprised at this. I actually played white today. This is my third white of the tournament, and I think after tomorrow's round I'll probably have 7 blacks. So a bit of a split. So it was nice to actually have the white pieces for a change. Wales, we were playing against Kuwait, and I was playing a guy called Al Azmi. He was graded quite low. 1780 or something like that. So I was kind of under a lot of pressure to win. However, you don't really know how highly graded these players actually can play at. So we'll just you have to play the board rather than play the player here, which is quite difficult. I'd seen a few games from him anyway. You'll get started. I always start with d4, and I knew that he played the Nimzo Indian. I'd seen that on his previous games. And decided to go for the quite flexible variation by playing knight f3. I've played many moves here. I've played f3, I've played a3, bishop g5 is a line, queen c2 is one of the main lines, e3 is even possible. I played that as well, but I just thought there's no need to do anything too special. I quite like this line as well. And then black's got quite a number of responses. I mean, b6, c5, and you can even go d5 and transpose into a ragazine. But he chose to castle. He had quite a bit of a think before he castled. It's almost like he didn't expect me to play knight f3, which I'm quite surprised at because I've got a lot of games against them. So, and even though I have played quite a few things, knight f3 on move 4 is one of those things I've played. So I don't quite know why he thought for 10 minutes around that point. I thought he would have gone b6 there though, so I mean it doesn't really make much of a difference. Now in my previous game that I played bishop g5, which is this move. So I decided just to vary it just to get him out of theory, just in case he had booked up on me. Maybe he was trying to bluff his way into the fact that he didn't know the line when actually he did. However, it's entirely possible he didn't have a clue what was going on. So I just played e3. My intention was to always keep my bishop in. That's this dark squared bishop, so I know that I'm blocking it in. However, I was going to long term develop it onto either this diagonal or this diagonal here. Just depends what moves he plays. He played b6, so I was back into my theory again. Bishop to d3, bishop b7, and castles. Quite simple so far. And now he makes quite a decision about how he wants to play the game. I know that you can play d5 here and try and keep this dark squared bishop, but he makes a decision to give me double pawn straight away, which has been played by many top players beforehand, but sometimes it's a bit of a dubious decision because I haven't actually forced him to do it by playing the move a3. And I know that in a couple of moves I would have played the move a3 anyway. So maybe he could have got a tempo up on the actual game just with me having a3 played. Maybe he was worried about me, maybe if he did something, me moving the knight away and then playing a3 to kick his bishop. I don't know. But I think he set out and he kind of knew that he was going for this type of structure. And all he's going to do is he's going to put his pawns on these dark squares here, and then hopefully he's going to force me to push this pawn forward, and then his knight can jump in either to this way, or his knight can either come to here and then to a5, to c6 and then a5. Maybe even put his bishop on a6 on here, this square, and he's going to be attacking this pawn twice, and it's going to be difficult for me to defend it. And eventually he can get there. So he's going to put all of his pawns on the dark squares because he's just lost his dark squared bishop. And that will complement his light squared bishop at the same time. Whereas I've brought another pawn towards the centre. And I've got the bishop pair, so actually I'm looking to open up lines and especially open up some diagonals against this king. I mean, we've already got the bishop hitting the h7 pawn, which I know is quite standard, but I don't know where this bishop's belonging at the moment. It could be quite nice and pin out here if we can get it out there, or even this way. So we'll just leave it where it is for now and just see what happens. Quite a pivotal point is the square on e4 and who controls that, because what I don't want to happen is for black to play the move e5 and then to be threatening to play e4 at the same time. And of course, he's forking 2 of my pieces there. And that would be quite dangerous for me because I'd probably be forced to either play d5 or forced to play e4 as well as d5 against it. And that makes it quite too blocked up for me. I want to open up the position. So I play my knight back to d2, gives me control over the e4 square. Also frees up my f pawn just in case I want to go f3 or f4. Haven't decided yet which one I wanted to do. and it also frees up my queen coming out this way as well. Obviously not to this square because the knight would take it, but just in case, say, something moves around or this bishop gets blocked in, then this f3 square isn't too bad for my queen. And I am looking to do some sort of hack attack on the king side if I can. He brings his knight into the game, develops his knight, good move. And I decide to put a pawn, move my e3 pawn to e4, and put that pawn wall in front. And I know that he's going to respond by putting a pawn onto the dark square. So I really expected him to play e5 here. And I was not shocked, but thinking he went with the c pawn to the dark square, which is quite interesting. And I think the idea is that he's at some point probably going to take this pawn on d4, which will undouble my pawns, which I'm going to be happy with. But it opens up the c file for his rook, and possibly queen. So he's going to be aiming at the c4 pawn. It's going to be potentially winning that pawn at some point. I think it might be better going with this pawn, even though it leaves this square here quite weak. I'm not sure. I don't think the c5 move is very good, because now, if he ever does go e5, so my next move is rook e1. If he goes e5 now I can leave it, but I can't actually just push forward now, because even though it's a blocked position, my knight is going to go, well, I'll show you the path of mine. It's going to go to f1, to g3, and then to f5. And if I provoke g6, then this dark squared bishop is very quickly going to jump into this h6 square, and I'll be going for some sort of kingside attack. And this knight here, the only probably route for it to take is to probably go to f8 after he's moved his rook and bring it to g6 perhaps. But it's very defensive for him, because he really wants this knight. So if this knight was say on c6 originally and came out to a5, if it was there, then he's at least hitting my c4 pawn, and he can maybe move his bishop out. If this pawn was back here, then he'd free up this square for the knight. So he's kind of, I don't think he's gone with the right pawn there. But it's not winning for me at all or anything. It's just a little technicality. Yeah, I just played rook e1. And he played queen c7. Again, a piece on the dark squares. He's connecting his rooks. And now I start to do my little knight sortie that we went through earlier. So I brought my knight back to f1. That's obviously a key move to bringing the rook into the centre, supporting the pawn. But also this knight's coming to this square where I'm waiting for him to play e5, if he ever does so. Played quite a strange move now. He went h6. I can only think that he was worried about me playing bishop to g5, which isn't a threat in itself, unless this knight moves. But maybe the bishop coming to f4 might be a danger, because it's attacking this diagonal here. I don't want him to allow to play e5 with tempo, so I wouldn't be playing it there. But yeah, h6 was a bit of I don't think it was quite the best move in that position. So my knight continues its journey, and now if e5 does happen, I'll stick my knight there. I've got sacrifice opportunities now on this h6 pawn or the g7 pawn, however that looks. He put his rook on c8, and again, I can see what he's doing. He's probably going to take back, and then he's hitting this pawn with his rook and queen. Of course, he can't do anything because of the bishop, so he might bring his bishop to a6 and then try and pick up this pawn. However, I think maybe taking first and then playing rook c8 would have been a better idea for him. It's still unclear whether it's any good or not. But I'd take the opportunity to block up the position in the centre by playing d5. So now his queen moved to c7 and his rook moved to c8 have been not completely pointless, but their main objective of opening up the c file is now completely ended. And I'm not too bothered if he takes. And one of the lines I looked at, I looked at taking back with both the pawns, but if he does take, he gives me this f5 square for my knight. So whenever I recapture back, however it looks, even if I take back this way, yes, he can put his knight into this square, but my knight into this square is just so much more powerful. I think I looked at even taking back this way, and then if he plays b5, but I think I'll just take it. And then, even though he gets the central pawns, I'm just going to block it up, and he's going to eventually have to, I don't know which way my bishop would go, back to b1 or back to f1. It doesn't really matter, because my next move is going to be a3 trapping the knight in. So if his knight has to go back, let's say it goes to a nice square, b6, again, this diagonal's open, this diagonal's open, I'd be very happy with this position. In fact, I could play it positionally. In fact, I could actually just gang up on this d6 pawn as well. So maybe this bishop wants to come to f4. Okay, 95 would probably stop that, but I could just triple up on the d file and just hit this pawn as much as possible. So there's a few things that he could do there here, and I thought he would kind of do something with his e-pawn rather than just leaving it there, but he played 95, and I put my bishop back to f1, obviously still guarding the c4 pawn. His knight's on the good square though, but you can see very quickly that after f4 it's going to get pushed back. He plays rook fe8, and now I play f4. Obviously I've gained a lot of space by these moves. Notice how my bishops are right back at the on their home squares, and yet actually they're still doing a useful job for me. Ideally I'd like to have this rook in the game somehow if it was over here somewhere, but it's the only piece that's not really contributing to this attack at the moment, because my bishops do a great job even though they're far back. I know that this one here especially is only defending a pawn at the moment, but once this knight moves it would then be free to do whatever it wants if there's space for it. He goes back to g6, and now I think I'm making a mistake here. I should just support my centre, maybe put my bishop back to d3, and allow this pawn to either come forwards or to the side and taking, which will free up this f5 square for my knight, because he kind of can't do anything here. And so I make him a mistake here and actually give him the advantage. I play e5, and it's all because I saw this combination. So he takes, I take. He played knight to d7. He can't take the pawn because d6 just wins a piece, because I'm attacking his queen and my rook's attacking the knight. So he goes back to d7. d6, obviously my pawns are looking very strong. Then he goes queen c6. There's no mate threat down here, by the way, on this diagonal because of my f1 bishop, so it's doing a useful job. And then I saw queen h5 and I thought, oh, actually this is quite good for me. I didn't see his next move now. I was expecting something along the lines of, let's see, knight takes pawn, rook takes knight, knight takes rook, queen takes pawn, f6, and then I analysed, I would have analysed it more at the board, queen f4, trying to keep the pawn, but I saw something different. What did I see? I mean, queen h5 might be okay as well, and then queen takes pawn. What did I see? I can't remember in this position. I was quite happy to have the two pieces against the rook and two pawns here, though, and I was quite happy to play this position. I think maybe I can just play, maybe not queen h5, maybe, oh no, queen h5 is okay. Queen takes d6. Ah, that's it. I was looking at this sack. This is now very interesting because now the knight's coming into h5 afterwards, and it's very dangerous. I would have calculated a lot more had we gone down this line, but he surprised me, and he played king h7. I was just like, oh no, because my entire plan was, well, let's say he does something silly, well, not silly, but let's say he does a useful move over here. I've actually got this idea. And then take back queen takes pawn. Okay, he doesn't have to take it. He cannot do anything to stop knight h5 and queen g7 checkmate. He can't do anything at all. Whatever he tries. It was so slow, as in 2 moves and then 2 moves to get checkmate, and he can't do anything. I thought, have I analysed this correctly? Because this looks winning for me. I was a bit shocked that actually played king h7. I was just like, oh no, my entire plan's just completely gone wrong. Hang on a minute, am I actually losing this game now? And I am. I'm losing this game. But I think, worst case, I'm probably going to lose both of these pawns. Probably what's going to happen is I'm going to lose them, but I'm going to get one back, so I'm only going to be a pawn down. And with the bishop pair and his king looking quite not weak at the moment, but it's definitely in the firing line, especially if this bishop, say, comes to this square and along this diagonal, you can start to see there's going to be quite a lot of tactics here, because he's going to have to probably play some pawn move to actually break open the position. So I decided to play a4, the idea being stops his queen coming to a4. a5 is not really the plan. The plan is actually rook a2 and to get my rook across, because the rook will guard this pawn. and that'll free up this bishop to come to d3 and get onto that diagonal, because I can't do that at the moment, because otherwise queen takes g2 checkmate. He played f5, which is now threatening to win this pawn just outright, so I have to take en passant. He does knight takes hit my queen, and then queen h3, and then he does queen takes pawn, and he's a pawn up. However, it's not easy for him to play this position at all. I mean, straight away I'm tying his pieces down to defending this pawn. My knight has got the potential to jump into some interesting squares, and now with his f7 pawn gone, the bishop on this diagonal pinning his knight to his king would be even harder for him to defend against. And there's not any sacks at the moment on h6, but I'm getting close to it. So I bring my rook up to a2, bring another piece into the attack. I don't know if I want to put my rook on d2, e2 or f2 at the moment. All three squares seem to be pretty good. And here he doesn't play the most critical move of trying to defend, either by playing a rook to d8 or a rook to f8, whatever it might be. He just played a5, and I think maybe he was thinking long term, I'll fix this pawn on a light square, play bishop c6 and then take it. And it's just all too slow, because I'm coming for his king, and I'm coming for his king pretty quickly. I think maybe rook d2 here was probably more accurate than what I played, just making him to make a decision with his queen first. However, I played rook f2, and he played a bad move now. He went queen d8. I think actually what he should do is play e5 and give me the f5 square, which is so counterintuitive to what you should actually be doing, because if he gives me this square, you think, oh yeah, brilliant, white's getting an attack going, but actually queen f8, and the queen covers this pawn on this diagonal, so the sacks there are not that good. And I thought that this would be a better way for him to try and defend it in practical terms. I think I've still got compensation for my lost pawn and wrecked queenside pawn structure. In fact, that was probably what I was more worried about than actually being the pawn down. I thought this might have been a better way to fight on. But yeah, after the move queen d8, he's in a lot of trouble, because I now play bishop g5. Of course, he can't take it because it's pinned to his king. I'm pinning his knight, but I am just threatening to take it. Do rook takes knight, f6, and after pawn takes rook, queen takes pawn, h6 check, king's got to lay it back, and then I take the knight. So I'm threatening some major tactics here. Yeah, I thought he might be, he can't do even, he played a different move, but you can't even do rook here because I was planning knight h5. Again, adding more pressure to the knight. And this is just horrible for him, because he's got to take back on f6 with the pawn at some point, in which case I do queen takes h6 check, because I keep my bishop here on g5. So this is, and the computer agrees with me as well, so I'm quite pleased that I analysed that right. He played king g8 though, and it's all over from here on in. Bishop takes knight, pawn takes, queen takes pawn, hidden the knight, plays rook c7, so after queen takes knight, you can play rook g7, and I don't know why he's playing on, but he is. But I played knight h5, so actually it was, I don't need to take the knight right here, because I've got checkmate ideas of knight takes f6, and maybe I'll pick up a queen instead. Played f5, took the knight. He played on for quite a few more moves, and sometimes you get to these positions and you're a piece up and you think, okay, this is just nice and easy now. But the key thing is to make sure that you do win it, and sometimes win it as quickly and easily as possible. It's just popped up on the computer actually that it's mate in 9 moves. I missed this. How embarrassing. I just did it simply though. Queen check first. Obviously you can't move the king because of knight f6 check, forking the king and rook, and maybe leading to mate as well. So he blocks with the rook, and then I play queen f6 check, get the queens off the board. Nice and easy. If he doesn't take and plays king g8, I'll just take the queen, rook takes, and then knight f6 check, forking the king and rook, so then I'll be a rook up. However, he did queen takes queen, knight takes queen, and now again, my knight is forking the 2 rooks. So I'm going to be a rook up, so it's not even a piece, it's not even a knight or a bishop, it's a full rook. He plays on. Rook e7, takes, and then I take this pawn here because it's pins, so I get his rook. Bishop c6, so he's finally getting this plan right. He wants to take this pawn on a4. So I play rook g5, the idea of rook here, mates. He takes the pawn, rook e3, rook g7. Now, of course, he's going to block with the rook now if I go rook h3 check. So I play bishop d3. And the only way to escape from the checkmate, I think, long term, is to play rook g7. in which case I just take the rooks off. My rook takes this pawn, my rook takes this pawn, and then my rook sits behind as a pawn, and I just pick them all off, and these pawns will win me the game. So yeah, a really interesting game. I was very happy with how my attack worked. I think he could have put up a lot sterner of a defense, and maybe I shouldn't be so gung-ho with my e5 move as well. Maybe building up my center a bit more before going for it would have been a better idea. But I think it was probably more interesting from my point of view is the fact that he went for the c5 pawn break. That's this one here, when really I think maybe e5 would have been a better option for him. But anyway, the team won somehow. We beat Kuwait 2.5, 1.5. So we're just waiting for our pairings to be up for tomorrow morning. If I win tomorrow, I get to be an FM. So there's all to play for in the last round. Thanks very much for watching. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. And yeah, thanks very much.